So that's Queen and Radio Gaga. This is Radio Brockley, here for the next couple of hours with a very special live programme to celebrate 40 years of volunteering to Keith Reeve, treasurer, trustee, fundraiser, technical guru, host of the longest-running weekday programme and many, many other accolades to his name as well. Keith, pleasure to have you in the studio.
Good evening, Alan.
This is probably the first time in my 27 years at Radio Brockley that I've got more of an idea of what's going on here than you.
Yeah, as most people here know, I'm not used to not knowing what's happening. I'm used to very much being in charge and or in control, perhaps is a better way of saying things. And tonight, this gentleman's just walked in, an old school buddy of mine from 45 years ago, who I haven't seen for 3 years, and that I'm thinking, well, this is a good start. So, great to see Eric.
Absolutely.
Things can only get better, Keith. Things
Yes.
can only get better.
Well, there you go. I hope so. We are in a hospital. We always hope that's the case.
So let me introduce Eric Hall. Welcome back to Radio Brockley, Eric.
Thank you,
after
Alan.
a long time away, and you were responsible, I believe, for getting Keith Reeve involved in Radio Brockley back in 1977.
In a way, yes. We met in 1972. We were school friends, as Keith's just said.
Yeah.
And Keith, unfortunately, spent a bit of time in the hospital in his youth, which we won't dwell on. But he'd experienced Radio Brockley from the other side of the microphone, and he was very keen to sort of like do something with Radio Brockley. And an opportunity came up. He said, "Do you fancy coming along?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" And basically we enrolled, and that's where it went from there, didn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Remember going over to the patient centre, that used to be over the back here on a Sunday, coming up early, collecting requests from the box of visitors. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
And then Keith would normally get us out into the car park. There's a big building site there now, but there used to be a car park there, and we'd chuck a frisbee to each other for about half an hour. That's in the days when we were fit. Well, fitter anyway.
That's right. Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, you haven't got any larger. I certainly have. But no, that's right. That's a pretty good summary. I think that was it, really, wasn't it?
That was the early
days. That was Sundays on Radio Brockley, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask the question before you go any further, because in the early days, well, as we do now, all the members have to do a voice test to get qualified to go on the air. Now, you'll be relieved to know, Keith, that we haven't got this.
Oh, good.
You're off the hook.
Thank goodness.
But it is legendary. Eric, tell us the story of Keith's voice test.
Well, I was engineering the show that on that occasion, I think, and Keith was behind the microphone, and there was a lot of ums and ahs and talking about particular birds. I think it was a John Anderson song you played, and it was certainly entertaining.
That's very charitable.
It is. It was. It was certainly quite unique, and I think maybe we should leave it at that. But I think maybe if ever you do a fundraising opportunity, maybe if people donate enough money to Radio Brockley, maybe it could be played live on air. How about that?
What a brilliant idea!
I think they're pretty more likely to want to donate money not to play it on it. But I'm very grateful you haven't actually embarrassed me with that, because my voice test was absolutely terrible.
It was interesting, wasn't it?
It was awful, and I even broke my pencil part way through it, I think, as well.
You remember that?
I remember that, and
yes.
this is before we could afford pens at Radio Brockley. So.
Oh, happy days.
So how did you learn then to do the presenting side? Because I'll concede that over 40 years, you're not too bad now, really.
Thank you, Alan. There's somebody who's a radio professional saying that, which is a very nice sort of praise. Thank you. I think I try to improve. I'm not brilliant in any way. We're amateurs, and or at least I am. And I try to listen. I try to critique myself. I try to monitor what I'm saying, what I'm doing. I listen to programmes not for any vanity, but just to think, my goodness, that was awful, or I'm saying that too often. And it's a constant improvement. 40 years, you still don't get it right. You still say things wrong. You don't actually get the timing right, and you cringe at certain things, but it's just continual improvement. You never know it all in anything in life.
I think that's one of Keith's strengths, is that Keith is one of the people that he likes to do things. If he's going to do something, he likes to get it right, and he'll invest a lot of extra time at the beginning, which can sometimes be frustrating, as I remember in my youth of, just get a move on. But invariably, it would save time in the long time, wouldn't it?
It would.
And Keith's proved me wrong so many times. So, but that's one of Keith's strengths, is that he does like to get things right first time.
Thank you.
I take my hat off to you.
Well, I remember one of the first things Keith taught me when I joined Radio Brockley 27 years ago, well before I got into radio, is if you aim high, you'll come out somewhere in the middle. If you aim mediocre, you'll come out pretty poor. And I've taken that away with me in all the years I've done radio. So hopefully the start of this programme won't be too bad. You'll judge for yourself. Tell us some of the early memories of some of the early programmes that you did at Radio Brockley.
Keith used to, I think one of the first shows was the Keith Reeve show.
The first show we ever did was Christmas Day 1977.
We did, yes.
That was a joint effort between you and me. It was
That's
the
right.
12 days of Christmas, and it was 12
songs of Christmas, wasn't it?
That's right,
Yes,
12,
that's right.
that's it, 12 songs of Christmas, that's right. But yes, you're right, it was probably the Keith Reeve show or the Revolution.
They then went into the Revolution, and as you may remember, that used to be printed on the weekly or the monthly
Show
programme.
guide. Yeah.
And quite often someone like Adrian would be on before you and say, yes, and at 9 o'clock on Radio Brockley, Keith will be revolting. Which always raised a bit of a smile, didn't it?
Absolutely, the old ones are the worst. Yeah, that's right. That was my first main show, I think, the Revolution, where I used to play a bit of a mix of everything. Current music, because I was much more into current music then when I was young.
You were, yes.
And but my music tastes go back over decades, so it was never just latest music. It was stuff from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s.
Your running order could have everything from Strauss to the Stranglers, couldn't it?
Yeah, so, that's right. But that's hospital radio for
indeed,
you.
Indeed.
But and you did. What did I can't think what your programme was called. I can't remember. I know you did competitions.
Hall's Half Hour, I think it was.
Hall's Half Hour. Was that when you introduced the infamous Cuddly Quidsworth?
I did. I used to have a competition, and the prize was this little cuddly toy, which I used to source for about £1. So it became known as the Cuddly Quidsworth.
Brilliant.
So yeah, a little bit of my history there, but I'm glad you remembered that. Thank you.
I do remember that. I remember also we used to give away bottles of Pomaine, which was like a cheap fizzy wine sort of thing. And I mean, you wouldn't be able to do it now because obviously for all good reasons we shouldn't be giving that kind of stuff away. But back in the day we did. We had crates of it. We used to buy it on bulk, and we used to just put a couple of bob in when we wanted to give one of these away on programmes, as well as the Cuddly Quidsworth.
Indeed, yes.
So you could get squiffy and you could have your cuddly toy to cuddle afterwards
at the same time,
to console
indeed.
yourself.
Yeah,
But yeah, that was Radio Brockley in the late 70s.
And I believe it has sort of moved on a little bit since then.
Oh, slightly, yeah.
Just
I think we're cuddly 2 quid's worth now, So.
Inflation, I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, it's really good to see you. Now, I know tonight there's a lot of things coming up, and
Yes.
I'm not going to outstay my welcome, but I would like to be the first one to say congratulations, Keith, on 40 years at Radio Brockley. You've been an inspiration to so many people, and I'm incredibly proud to have been part of that for a little while.
Well, thank you.
And proud to have you as a mate. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations again.
Thank you very much, Eric Hall. It's lovely to see you.
Good to see you.
Let's not leave it 3 years till we have another coffee in Watford.
Or even 40.
Or even 40. So, yeah, thank you.
I do want an invitation back to your 80th anniversary.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Can you put that in the diary now?
I can try.
Yeah.
I'll be about 96 then. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Don't forget you are a month older than me. So
that's true.
Yeah, you are my oldest friend.
That could become critical.
Did you think that when he joined 40 years ago that he'd still be here doing this 40 years later?
To be brutally honest, I didn't think we'd last a couple of weeks, especially after that voice test. But no, the fact that Keith has sort of not just as you said earlier, he's done so many different roles, everything from being a trustee, a presenter, a producer, an engineer, all the technical stuff. He's even swept up.
As Eric touched on, we have got a few sort of interspersed surprises as we go along. In fact, it's going to be one big surprise, hopefully, over the next 2 hours. Part of the family wanted to contribute to this as well, so let's have a listen to this little message.
Now, here's an interesting fact. Keith is renowned for doing his parts in uniting the world with music on Radio Brockley. For example, in Asia, it was in the... because Toto was still in... There were men at work in a... And Keith even made friends in America with... Meanwhile, back here in Europe, Keith just couldn't wait for... We think the world of you. So many congratulations, Uncle Keith, on 40 years of dedicated service to Radio Brockley. With love from Sarah and Jeff.
There you go.
That's brilliant. I'm almost in tears, actually.
And you'll get to see some of them later on this evening.
Yep, Sarah, George, and Joanna are in the
Other room.
in the complex.
Oh,
wow! We shall pop in and say hello a little bit later on.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, guys, and it's brilliant. And yeah, you got me into this. Thank you. It's been a fantastic 40 years.
My fault.
No, never fault blame. I mean, it's been a brilliant learning curve. I've met some wonderful people. Some of which who've left, sadly, I'm still in touch with, made good friends, learnt a lot, applied a lot of what I've learnt elsewhere in my professional career. It works both ways. Volunteering is definitely a good thing to do.
And all the benefit to the patients as well.
Thank you.
One other little surprise for you in this particular segment, and we were talking before about professional radio. Well, this has come from James Purnell, who is the Director of Radio and Education for the BBC, the whole of the BBC, and he says, "Dear Keith, congratulations on your 40 years of unbroken membership to Radio Brockley. It's an amazing achievement and shows an impressive dedication. I wish you all the best for celebrating this milestone." And we'll let you have a copy of that letter as well. So
wow.
That's from the Director of Radio at the BBC.
Gosh.
Impressive.
Has he got any jobs going?
I'll be first in the queue if he has. OK, great. Let's have a piece of music. Thank you very much, Eric, for joining us for now.
You.
This is Radio Brockley.
And now another little surprise for Keith. Now, here's a man whose incredible radio and TV career spans almost 60 years. He was on Radio 1 back in its very first year, and since then has presented on Top of the Pops, Seaside Special, as well as on Radio 2, Capital Gold, and now on BBC Surrey and Sussex. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce over the phone, it's Diddy David Hamilton. Hello, David.
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Radio Brockley. A very special occasion for Keith next door, and I'm sure Keith will want to speak to you himself and ask you a fair few questions himself. But let's talk about your career just briefly firstly. How did you get back into radio back in the late 50s, wasn't it?
Well, I was actually doing my national service in the RAF, and I was posted to Germany, which was the home of two-way family favourites, divided between the studio in London and the studio in Cologne, and I was in Cologne. And I was in the RAF, and I went to see the station manager there, and I said, "Look, I'm a scriptwriter. This is what I do. Can you use me here?" So we don't actually have scriptwriters here, but we do need someone to read the football results. So that was the first thing I did, and then I persuaded him that he should have a rock and roll show. I said, "All this music that you play, Bing Crosby and Peggy Lee, is fine for the troops. Fine for the officers, but the troops want rock and roll." I don't think he knew what rock and roll was, but Elvis Presley was there at the same time in Germany. He was doing his national service with the U.S. Army. So it was a very exciting time. In the end, he relented and he gave me a show. And so I played Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis. And the troops loved it, of course. And because he was worried about transmitting this heathen music, he followed it with a speech by the Padre. So the Padre came on and cleansed their souls for listening to this outrageous music.
Fantastic. Well, you're here to wish Keith a very happy 40 years in Radio Brockley, so let me introduce Keith to you now.
Good afternoon, Keith. I'm just ringing up to congratulate you on 40 years and to wish you a very happy anniversary.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. It's very, very kind of you, David, to spare the time on a Sunday afternoon to do this. We did actually meet at the Hospital Radio Conference a few years ago up in Newcastle.
I think hospital radio does a wonderful, wonderful job, and you've been doing it now for such a long time. People often say to me, what's a good way to start in radio? And I say, start in hospital radio. Go to your local hospital. If they have a radio service, if you want to get into radio, offer them your services. You'll feel good because you're doing nice things for other people, and at the same time, you'll get wonderful experience. So, I often pop in on hospital radio stations around the country, and obviously they have been doing a fantastic job for such a long time.
Yeah, I would obviously condone that because, I've been doing this 40 years, and thank you very much for the support you give to hospital radio as well. It's very much appreciated.
Well, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, if that was right, if that's okay.
Please do.
Can you remember the first record you played on hospital radio?
I can't remember exactly the first song. It would have been a Christmas song because that was my first show on Christmas Day 1977. That was my first live show.
Yeah.
But which of the 12 Christmas songs I played in that hour, I can't remember which one. I should have bought the playlist because I've still got it.
What was the year? The year was obviously 77, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it wasn't, excuse me, it wasn't Merry Christmas, everybody. That was 73. So So I'm trying to remember what was in the chart in 77. I've got my Guinness Book of records here, and I'll look it up quickly, and it'll tell me.
It was probably Wings, I think. Muller Kintyre at number 1 that Christmas.
Yes,
Did
could
you
have been.
like that?
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, I didn't mind it. In fact, I heard it on the radio this afternoon coming up here. So yeah, it's
did you?
a good song. It was.
Yes,
It was.
You're absolutely right. It was Mull of Kintyre, and the 3rd of December it went to number 1, and it remained number 1 right over that Christmas into the new year.
Yeah, so about 9 weeks at number 1, wasn't it? In a long time.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
Do you think radio's still as good now as it used to be, David?
Well, I don't think it is either.
No.
I mean, I grew up as part of the radio generation, so, you know, I lived on a very remote farm. I was an only child, and the radio was my window to the world. All these wonderful programs came in, and I would hear commentaries from, you know, St. James's Park or White Hart Lane, all these big crowds. I hear these huge crowds. And I would hear the variety shows. I was listening to the live program. We didn't have a television. We only had radio. And, you know, I've always loved radio. I've done television as well, but I've always loved radio because there's just a magic about it.
Yeah, you can paint pictures, can't you?
Well, that's the idea. You paint pictures, and I think, you know, once you get, it's almost like a drug. You know, once you get behind that microphone, it becomes like a sort of umbilical cord. I hope, by the way, Keith, that you're planning to go on for a long time.
Well, I hope so, David. God willing, yes.
I mean, 40 years. The first 40 years is the hardest.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you for that. So the next 20 is going to be a dream.
It's all downhill. It's all going to be nice and easy.
Well, thank you. I look forward to the next 20, and I hope that you know, the radio station that we have here and in the hospital we're in will still be here in 20 years' time.
Well, yes, I hope so. I mean, a lot of people are pessimistic about radio, but, you know, they have been for a long time. A lot of people have said, oh, television will kill radio. Well, it didn't. And the internet will kill radio, but it hasn't. Radio is holding its own, and I don't see why we shouldn't be around for a lot longer yet. And particularly in your case, you know, when people are in hospital and they're not feeling at all well, you know, you're there to give them a little bit of therapy and cheer them up. And, you know, a bright, happy voice, what could be better than that?
That's it, and also the befriending side that our patient reps do on our wards with our patients is just as important. You know, you have people there that may be fretting about their operations. They may have relatives that are concerned about what they're going to do when they get home. You have nursing staff prodding and poking. We can be neutral in that. We can just talk about the weather, the football, what they're having for lunch.
Yeah.
And that is a massive, massive hero in a lot of ways.
Yes. How is your day going, your special day?
Well, it's full of surprises, David, so far. I've just had one of my old school buddies come in to see me, a guy I joined the station with back in 1977. You're the next surprise up, really. Thank you very much for the time, as I said. And sitting to my left at the moment is one of my great friends that taught me a lot when I first joined radio, a chap called Garry Carter, who worked for the BBC at the time.
Still does.
Oh, look, well, I'm glad it's going well. And tell me, before I go, what time are you on the air nowadays?
This is obviously a special show. This is I normally do the Sunday evening request show at 8 o'clock, and I also take part in our Thursday live show between 8 and 10 on Thursday evening as a kind of an anchor, if you like, to that programme. Plus, I do special reports and things.
And you've got a day job?
I'm semi-retired now. I worked in the most boring industry in the world, IT, for 30 years, and I decided to kick that into touch about 8 years ago, and I'm now semi-retired and loving it.
You're just a boy.
Yeah.
You're still wet behind the ears. Just a lad. Well, it's great to talk to you. I mean, I like one sort of old pro to another. I'm glad to be part of your day, and I hope there are lots of more great surprises to come. And many more years of good work on the station. Well done.
Thank you very much, David. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And I should say as well that if anyone wants to listen to David Hamilton, he's still on air on BBC Surrey and Sussex weekly, aren't you? In fact, you've just done your programme for Sunday afternoon, so hopefully everyone can tune into that.
This afternoon I did a 3-hour show today.
Yep.
So I'm just going to come home now and watch Strictly.
Excellent. Well, enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining us, David Hamilton. Great stuff.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Diddy David Hamilton there. Right, let's have another piece of music and then more surprises for Keith Reeve.
Keep looking
Hello Keith, this is Daniel, currently sending you this message from the Caribbean. I just wanted to get in touch to say thank you very much and congratulations on reaching 40 years of volunteering with Radio Brockley. I know the work that you've done over the last 4 decades is completely invaluable to both the station and the patients at the Royal National Orthopaedic, and this is a lovely opportunity for us to be able to say thank you to you for everything that you've done over the last 40 years, and I look forward to working with you and volunteering more with you over the many years to come. Thank you very much and enjoy the celebrations.
There you go, another one of our trustees there, Daniel Edwards, from the other side of the globe, reporting in for us here today, celebrating Keith Reeve's 40 years of volunteering at Radio Brockley. And as was briefly mentioned during David Hamilton's interview there, we have in the studio one of Radio Brockley's founder members. It's always a pleasure to welcome back Barry Cobden. Hello, Barry.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming back. Lots of stories I'm sure you can tell about Keith's early days at Radio Brockley, which we'll go into a little bit. But firstly, a few thoughts on Keith's achievements of 40 years here at Radio.
Well, I think it's a fantastic achievement. 40 years continuous volunteering for any voluntary charity is the most marvellous achievement, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And because it's Radio Brockley, which is very dear to my heart, thank you. Congratulations on that. I was one of the founders, as Alan has said. We started Radio Brockley in 1966. I got married in 75, and I think by the time 77 came round, I had other commitments. I was married, we had a small child on the way, and I wasn't able to spend as much time here as I had been previously. I spent an awful lot of time here previously. I'm not going to dwell on me.
You did.
But whenever I was supposed to be swatting up for A-levels, whenever I was supposed to be swatting up for college, I was here. I don't know whether that did me any good, but I joined the BBC in 1973, and I've been there for 44 years. So that's done.
You're obviously doing something very right at that time, then, if that's the case.
Oh, well, thank you very much indeed. I learned an awful lot. We learned an awful lot here. We had to invent a lot of the technology and also invent a lot of the techniques. So the sound control booth over there, which is not that dissimilar to the sorts of sound control booths we have in proper radio stations. There's an insult. Radio Brockley is not appropriate, but do you get what I mean?
Yes.
I work in BBC Radio 4 now, some of the time. What we have in BBC is bigger and more complicated, but it fundamentally does the same thing. We taught ourselves, we learned ourselves, we learned for ourselves how to cue each other, how to start each other from speaking and stop each other from talking and play the music at the right time and, incidentally, at the right volume, which was something that I always was banging on about.
That's one of my bugbears as well.
Because I would sit outside in the waiting room there with a loudspeaker and somebody would play something, and then all of a sudden, boom, something would come in very loud. And I had to dash into the control, too loud.
I think I inherited that off of you when you left then, because I still do that.
I don't think you do. And anyway, the technology has improved now. But and it was a fascinating learning journey. And when I did join the BBC, we found that Radio Brockley had been doing a lot of the right stuff. And then the likes of yourself and Dave Rauch, who's been here for a little over 40 years, that's a fantastic achievement.
Yeah, well, I mean, between me, David and Ron Laver, I think we've got something like 135 years service between us. It's an incredible amount.
Yeah, Ron and I we've been friends for many years.
But I remember, you were here, thankfully, when I joined, and I'm quite technically minded, and I learnt an awful lot from you in the 2 or 3 years you were around before family commitments obviously quite rightly took over. And a lot of that knowledge still stays with me. And we also did a very special event together. I don't know if you remember the opening of what was it? It was the Graham Hill unit, wasn't it, that we covered for Radio Brockley.
Just across the road from the side of the studio.
So basically the Graham Hill, or the British Racing Drivers Fund and the Friends of the RNOH, which sadly isn't around anymore, joint funded this building as a rehabilitation unit for scoliosis patients and other people. And we covered that event with Prince Charles doing the opening. Do you remember that?
I do remember it. I thought that I can't remember what the name of the unit was.
Definitely the Graham Hill unit.
Epilepsy, which affects my memory, which is not good. But yes, and we covered that, and Dave Buckley was extremely helpful in making that all work. We put my microphones over there, my tape recorder over there, and radio signalled the result across the road because we couldn't run cables across the road, and that was a complete again something new and something technically challenging.
Well, we have, I think Radio Brockley over the years has had a very forward-thinking, innovative way of doing things. We pushed boundaries back. We've challenged the status quo. We've been the first to do a number of things. I mean, the phone out was one of those things.
I'm going to claim credit for my wife, who's sitting outside at the moment as we speak, because it was her idea to put together stuff, not new technology, but technology we had been using. We just heard, very grateful to David Hamilton for joining in the conversation. We had a phone connection. We also had the OB kit, the outside broadcast kit, which is coiled up under the seats outside, with which we used to go around the wards and talk to the patients. And it was her idea to put these two things together. To do usually on Christmas, the phone out. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I think the patients appreciated it. Those patients who unfortunately will happen to have to be in the hospital over Christmas, which is never a nice time to be in hospital. Not to mention the fact that patients, generally speaking, were in the hospital for longer in those days than they are today. So we said, right, okay, give us a name of somebody anywhere in the world. As long as it's dialable, because there's some of the countries in those days that weren't. As long as it's dialable, we'll absorb the cost from our membership fees and other income, and we'll put you in touch with a relative or friend at home on Christmas. And going around, planned it in advance, and on the day we'd go out to them, and you'd hear wonderful conversations. Sometimes in languages that are not English, but you could just get the joy. That's what Christmas is all about, the joy of people talking to their relatives and friends at home.
And, of course, this was way, way before mobile phones were in everybody's pocket, before the internet, before any of the social media ways of keeping in touch now. The telephone, long distance, was really the only way.
There was a phone booth. I don't know if it's still there, halfway up the slope.
There is still one, but it's not where it used to be.
And people used to go, and, of course, the slope was very cold and probably still is.
Yep.
You used to go and make their phone calls there. There was a telephone trolley.
Yes, each ward had one of those.
Walked around by the nursing staff, and you put your pennies in, and you put your pennies in, and you put your pennies in, and you put your pennies in. You wouldn't get very far before you run out of pennies. And people couldn't have a confidential conversation. Not that the one with Radio Brockley was confidential; it wasn't designed to be. But now, as you say, people have got mobile phones, which means that doing that sort of thing is no longer has the novelty that it had at that time.
Well, talking of phones, if I can just pause you just there, this just seems like an opportune moment to introduce someone else who is joining us by phone, another former presenter here at Radio Brockley. In fact, I should say current presenter, because he's actually come back and is doing a series with us again called From the Vaults. Garry Carter. Welcome, Garry.
Hi, Keith.
Hi, Garry. How you doing?
I'm all right. Congratulations on your 40 years.
Thank you very much, sir. How's sunny Kent?
It's very wet and damp at the moment, and I'm not going to see the supermoon, and I'm very upset.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yes, no. Garry Carter, it's lovely to hear from you, and thank you very much for sparing the time this Sunday evening for giving me a call. And From the Vaults lives on 40 years after you last did the show here.
Yeah, well, I can remember when I joined, when I was there, you joining, and unfortunately a few months after that, 6 months after that, I left. But coming to the 50th anniversary last year, rekindled the old DJ, we still call us DJ bits now. And
the radio bug.
I come up, I think it's about every 6 to 8 weeks to do some shows, don't I?
You do indeed, and they're fine programmes on Saturday evening, 9 till 10, well worth a listen, and you know your stuff about your music, which is absolutely fabulous.
I do my best.
Garry, tell us some of your memories of Keith back in the early days of Radio B.
Well, I can remember Keith joining. Tony Reffolds used to be my engineer in those days. And Keith joined, and he was fairly young then when he joined.
Yeah, I was.
I was going to ask how old you were when you joined.
But weird because of the period of time. I didn't really get to know Keith. I've got to know him more now in the last year than I did then, because unfortunately I had to leave. But I did miss it, and I'm glad that we got hold of me and we're back doing it again. But some of the tales from up there, you were talking about the phone boxes earlier.
Yeah.
Well, some of the patients in there worked out a system that if they rang the operator and their family was in a phone box, say in Liverpool, they could reverse the charges. The person would accept the charges, so nobody ever paid for the phone call.
Brilliant.
It couldn't be done now, but they did that then. Of course, I worked in the Vine, which was down the road then, and a lot of the Radio Brockley people used to come into the Vine. I think that's how I got to know everybody and joined from there.
That's right. Our local pub, which is now sadly apartments and not a pub anymore.
Flats.
But it's the building's still there, but it's just been renovated and sold off. But those. I mean, we after you left, the Vine continued for many years as our watering hole and our social place. And we used to meet up on a Friday night just for the hell of it, have a few beers and a few cheese toasties and stuff, and just have a real laugh. It was a great place.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the people living in there now, because there must be a few ghosts in there.
Not from the vaults by chance, Garry?
Well, probably. I know there was a ghost there when I worked there.
And From the Vaults, I should say, is back on then Saturday evenings from 9 o'clock on Radio Brockley, if you want to tune into that. So well worth having a listen.
Keith, I know you're very busy and you must be getting a lot of calls, so I'm going to say well done from Kent, and happy Christmas to you. And what we'll do after Christmas, we'll have a chat and I'll come up and do another 3 or 4 shows.
It'll be lovely to see you, Garry. Thank you very much for the call, and all the best to you and Dee.
Thanks, Keith. See you soon.
Take care.
There you go, there's Garry Carter there. And final couple of words from you, Barry, and then we'll play another piece of music.
Well, I was going to say, how old were you when you joined?
I was 16.
Oh, just inside the limit.
That's
yes,
right.
we were told by the hospital authorities at that time that we weren't supposed to have anyone here who was younger than 16, which is how old we were when we started it.
Yeah. That is still the case. So,
because for security reasons and all that sort of stuff. Oh, well done. So I can do the arithmetic. I won't do it live on air.
No, please don't.
In case I get it wrong. Well done. Congratulations. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And all the best. Thank
Happy
you for
anniversary.
everything you taught me in my early days, and staying in touch and supporting Radio Brockley since you left. Well, you've never really left us. You just
Not
took
completely.
a step backwards, I think. So thank you very much.
Hello Keith, congratulations on your 40 years at Radio Brockley. I can't be with you tonight. As you can see, I'm not here, hence this recorded message. I remember when you first came to Radio Brockley. I remember seeing this little short guy standing in the corner of the studio, looking all lost and wondering what it was all about. Not much has changed really, because when I see you, it is always that little short guy in the corner of the studio wondering what it's all about. But no, seriously, Keith, very many congratulations. I think everyone at Radio Brockley appreciates all the work you do for us. And let's say here's to the next 40. Because if you do it, I'm going to be there before you. Okay. Cheers, Keith.
That's Ron Laver, who's one of only 2 members to have been at Radio Brockley longer than Keith Reeve, and the other is David Rauch, who has joined us now. Hello, David.
Good evening.
A special evening, David. You've been here, therefore, throughout Keith's 40 years at Radio Brockley. Tell us about some of his achievements.
Where do you start? I'm sure you've heard quite a lot about it. So many things that he's done, but he's basically the jack of all trades and master of most of them. Or some of them.
Yeah.
Well, no, he does a tremendous amount and has been doing for many, many years. What always surprised me, he's our treasurer and he still hasn't sent me a card from the Bahamas for his holidays.
No, the money's most definitely safe with me. But thank you, David. That's very kind. Yeah, I think I think I've applied myself, I think is the way I would describe things.
Yeah, you certainly have.
And all these years on, you're both still trustees of Radio Brockley. So,
not still. I mean, again, I think in both our cases.
Fair point. What is special for Radio Brockley for you, David? What keeps you, or has kept you here for all these years?
Well, I've always enjoyed doing radio as part of it, but I think the thing that does it for me most is giving out the bingo prizes after the bingo. I've been doing the bingo for a fair number of years now, and nobody else seems to want to do it. Nobody's asked, which seems a bit odd, but I'll keep doing it for as long as you'll let me. But it's nice, you call out the numbers, and then you get the winners, and then you go out and give out the prizes. And people are usually quite pleased to be given something, and they haven't had to pay for it. So that's really good, and it's nice to get an opportunity to chat to people. You meet people, made some friends, met my wife through that, but you can't have it all.
And of course, Bedside Bingo will be on at 7:30 this evening, so for an hour and a half time.
Give or take a few minutes, yes.
Yeah, so
better get my act together, haven't I?
Yeah, but get your playlist sorted and get the prizes sorted. But I mean, you do an enormous lot behind the scenes as well, David, and I think you should take some credit, and have done in all that time. In those 37, nearly 8 years, I think 47, nearly 8 years that you've been here. So, yeah, well
47
done.
It'll be next time around.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yes, I joined in 71, so yes, it'll be 47 next July.
Amazing achievement between the two of you. Well, David's going to be joined in the studio by two other very special guests in just a matter of minutes. So we're going to play one more piece of music, and then we'll have something else very special, I think. This is another selection from Keith. We talked at the start of the programme about the range of music that you choose, your favourites from hospital radio, and this kind of demonstrates that. Why this particular piece, out of interest?
This is very much a childhood memories thing, when my dad first bought our first record player, and it was a mono one, and it had the lid that you lifted up, it had the auto changer inside. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you used to be able to stack records, vinyl records, on top of one another, and they used to drop down and play, and then the next one would play, and eventually the arm couldn't reach the top of the pile because there were so many. And one of the first albums he bought was Montavani's Golden Hits, and he used to play that a lot. And my dad was partially deaf, and he liked the smooth sounds.
That probably explains it.
And I love this album to this day, and I actually, if I need a chill out time, half an hour, I put that album on and listen to it, because it soothes me, and the music is so nice. And I hope you, dear listener, enjoy it as much as I do.
Brilliant. Well, I'm sure you'll recognise the tune. This is Mantovani.
This is Radio Brockley.
It is Radio Brockley. It's a very, very special programme here on Sunday evening, celebrating 40 years of dedicated service to the hospital radio station by Keith Reeve. And we're now joined by many, many people in the studio, a packed studio on both sides, for a very special moment. And I'll hand you over to David Rauch at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I think this is the moment that we've been waiting for, the highlight of the hour, and then it's downhill from here on in.
Right.
I don't think Keith realised quite how many people have come along this evening to celebrate your 40 years at Radio Brockley, but I'm delighted to welcome the Mayor of Harrow, who has a few words for you.
Right.
Good evening.
Thank you. Pleased to meet you.
And you.
I've been reading all about you. We're here to celebrate 40 years of outstanding service to Radio Brockley, London's longest running hospital radio station, by Keith Reeve. In the station's 51-year history, Keith has arguably been the most influential and dedicated member. He first joined the station in October 1977, having been an ex-patient here at the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital. Keith quickly became curious to learn the technical workings of the radio station, and has led most of the station's technical projects over the last 30 years. His achievements include several studio upgrades, numerous outside broadcasts, and helping to implement the station's playout system, which now allows it to broadcast 24 hours a day. Keith also helped implement the being able to broadcast via the hospital's Wi-Fi service, allowing patients to be able to tune in from their laptop and smartphone This was groundbreaking in hospital radio and has since gone on to be used across other hospital radios across the UK. He's also been the radio station's treasurer since 1982. Obviously likes lots of work, helping the station to grow its funds and be able to support its activities, as well as purchasing new music and equipment. Keith has also been a trustee for around 28 of the last 40 years, helping to lead a range of projects, including the station's role in the rebuild of the hospital and its links with other hospital departments and charities. In 2010, Keith coordinated and produced a special live broadcast of the opening of the hospital's new outpatients department in central London, attended by His Royal Highness the Duke of York. The broadcast went on to win a Gold Award at the National Hospital Broadcasting Association Awards, and he was praised for his excellent commentary of the event. As a presenter, he has been part of the longest-running weekday request programme, Thursday Live, which started back in 1992. He has coordinated and been part of the show since its very first week. In 2016, Keith was presented with the very prestigious John Whitley Award at the National Hospital Radio Awards to recognise his outstanding efforts and contribution to hospital radio. The same year, Radio Brockley won the Gold Award for the Station of the Year for the first time as a station celebrating 50 years of broadcasting. Today, I'm here to say a very big thank you to Keith for 40 years of tireless dedication and hard work. And I would like to thank everybody else for coming along, and please enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Right,
Thank you.
now I have an award here to give you. There we are.
Thank you very much. Oh, beautiful. Lovely glass trophy to Keith Reeve, that's me. That's good.
That's you, yes.
Is it spelled correctly?
It is. From Radio Brockley with thanks for 40 years outstanding service with our logo on it. That is lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for that.
Yes.
And thank you for that very nice little summary of what I've tried to do over the last 40 years.
I hope I didn't get any of it wrong, because
No,
I had to learn up on, as I didn't know you personally.
You did very well. You did very well. Do you want a job?
You.
Yeah, you looking for new presenters?
No.
So thank you. Yeah, it's been a fantastic 40. I mean, for those that are listening, dear listener, there must be about 36 people in here at the moment in various different parts of the place.
In a tiny room.
In a tiny room next door, out in the corridor, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked. It's absolutely fantastic, and some of these people I haven't seen for a good while, which is wonderful, and to see them all again today. So thank you, and thank you for sparing the time to
I'm very
come
happy
up
to be here
this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, we have another presentation, and of course you know June.
I do.
Snowden, the president of the Hospital Broadcasting Association.
Hello, June.
Thank you, David. Hi there, Keith.
How you doing?
Let's have a kiss.
Nice to see you.
Madam Mayor, I think you've said it all. A wonderful summary and a wonderful dedication for someone who clearly deserves this certificate.
Yeah.
The Hospital Broadcasting Association presents long service certificates
Yes.
throughout the country, and it is important to recognise the hard work, dedication and commitment of members to hospital radio, wherever they be, but here in this case particularly in Brockley.
Yes.
Keith, many congratulations. We've known each other a long time, haven't we?
We have indeed.
And it's lovely to be here. I'm glad I could make it.
I'm very pleased to see you, June, as well, because I know you've not been in the best of health, in the nicest way, over the last year, and it's absolutely fantastic.
I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
That you've turned out today. I'm deeply touched. Thank you very much.
You.
And you, Madam Mayor, thank you very much indeed for sparing the time this afternoon, and everybody else that's here, because this is stunning. So thank you. I'm almost speechless. Not quite.
You're never speechless,
We keep trying.
Thank you very much for the certificate. Thank you very much for the lovely trophy. It's absolutely Smashing. Thank you.
And a big round of applause from everyone here, I think. Fantastic stuff. And Keith will hopefully have the opportunity to meet everyone who's in the studio very shortly. But whilst we clear the studio out again, let's play another piece of music.
Broadcasting to the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital in Stanmore. This is Radio Brockley.
It is Radio Brockley. It's just coming up to 6:15, and we are celebrating 40 years of service to Radio Brockley for our member and trustee, Keith Reeve. We've been throwing surprises at him left, right and centre here, and I'm pleased to say that June Snowden, the president of the Hospital Broadcasting Association, has stayed in the studio with us. Welcome, June.
Thank you very much, Alan. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Lovely to see you back in the studio.
Thank you. I was determined to get here if I could.
It's brilliant. I mean, you go around touring all the hospital radio stations up and down the UK. You've given out a few of these certificates, but 40 years is quite something, isn't it?
Fantastic. Yeah, lots and lots and lots. I produce the certificates from home and then send them out to various stations, and if they would like me to, then I'm very happy to go out and make a presentation, as you have been recipients in the past too. 40 years is fantastic. This year I've so far produced 200 certificates. No, 203 actually. Wow. And they total, this is a telling time, I always total up the number of years that those certificates represent, and it's over 4,000 so far this year.
Wow.
So there are an awful lot of people undertaking hospital radio with lots of dedication and commitment. And it's so important to acknowledge that and say thank you and well done and how much it's appreciated. And I know the recipients appreciate it too. None more than Keith.
No, June, you have actually been a fantastic servant to hospital radio in all of your years as well. And how many miles a year do you reckon you do on average?
I have been doing anything up to about 30,000 miles a year. That's
Wow.
not just hospital radio, to be fair. I am a Rotarian and I am involved in other things as well, like I still do my dance exams, but that's another thing. Hospital radio is my life, I always say.
And you've been president for many, many years. I mean, you've been coming to Radio Brockley for, good 20 years now?
I would say so. Yeah. When I was vice president, I think I probably came at first, and I've known you all. And you're all so important to me. Everybody is that's involved in hospital radio. But certain stations I am a regular visitor to, and I really do appreciate that, and it's lovely. And as I said, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I first became president in 2000. My current tour of duty, shall we say, is I'm in year 3 of 5 years. So in 2 years in March, then I need to be voted in again. But the poor old girl, she's taken a bit of a battering this year.
Yeah, well, it's especially lovely to have you here on that basis, because I know you haven't been out as much over the last few months. But
no, I'm not driving as much. Believe it or not, my car was written off, and I got a new one at the end of June, and I've only got 2,500 miles on the clock, which for me is unusual.
Yeah, do that in a week normally, don't you?
But I have been travelling by train instead. Yeah. Let the train take the strain, as they say. It just takes a bit longer.
And you yourself have done a good few years in hospital radio. What total have you notched up now into hospital radio?
Right, I joined York Hospital Radio in 1974.
Wow. There you go. You see,
so there you go.
He's got another 3 years to catch up on you then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I have. Yeah, mere 40. You know.
Oh, come on.
I remember the early days of when I joined Radio Brockley, and I was aware of what was NARBO then, the National Association of Hospital Broadcasting Organisations. What a mouthful.
Absolutely.
And you were actively involved with your late husband, Brian, weren't you?
Indeed, I was. And we did goodies and we organised conferences and so many things we got involved in. When we moved away from York, what it did was give us time not to remain so deeply involved in our station, but in fact we then got involved deeply in the national charity, which in fact Brian was a founder member of. I remained as treasurer for York Hospital Radio when we were living in Peterborough. So when we moved there in the late 70s, I used to, once a month, I would work through my lunch hour, dash off about 4:45 to the train station on a Tuesday for the committee meetings. I would jump on a train to York. I'd go to the committee meetings. Somebody would pick me up at the railway station. Somebody would pick me up back again to drop me off at York Station. And then Brian would be waiting for me at Peterborough Station. So, a few stories to tell.
Yeah.
Organising conferences was quite interesting. I did 12 in total.
Wow. That's
So-
a lot of commitment. Yeah. a lot of organisation.
And energy. No wonder my poor old ticker's playing up.
I've still got actually at home some of the hospital radio goodies that I bought in my early days. Because you used to do those little badges, didn't you, with the Dymo label names.
That's right.
And I think somewhere I was trying to find them last year for our 50th, but I couldn't. But somewhere I know in a box somewhere I have got about 24 of those.
Yes.
Because obviously now we will get given a hospital ID badge so that we're have an official presence here. But yeah, I've still got those, and I think I've still got pens and things from hospital radio days. I even got Percy the patient badge, the metal badge.
Yes. We used to make those.
Did you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, right.
But I mean, in those days, technology wasn't what it was, what it is now, and it wasn't so important for stations to have their own logo. It was all about hospital radio, and if you could get locally produced goods, then that was fine. But often it was very expensive. And one thing our whole ethos was, we would buy in on behalf of the association as cheaply as possible. Thousands, literally. Our garage used to have thousands of stickers and thousands of this and thousands of that. And then we would bring them to conferences or send them out to stations, and it enabled them to raise some funds as well. So a lot of good reasons, but clearly over time things have changed.
Things change, yeah.
Yeah, and now it's important for you to be recognised locally with your own logo, and you get your prints already done locally, and it's a lot cheaper, it's a lot easier. Usually you've got a friendly company who will help you out.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask the question, is hospital radio still relevant? There's so much more competition there. And I know obviously you have very strong feelings on this. So what would you say to anyone who asks that question now, and how hospital radio has developed certainly in the last few years, because it's become more like community radio in some ways, hasn't it?
I think there is still a place for hospital radio, perhaps not in the same format as we've all grown up to know what it was. More because of technology. It does help us. It does make life different. We need to use it, but I think, yes, you're quite right in bringing into it the idea of community. We can help the hospitals enormously to publicise what they are trying to achieve through hospital radio, through the media, through internet broadcasting, whatever way we choose. And you know yourself, you've been the forefront of it through Wi-Fi Spark, which I always thought was absolutely brilliant when it first was introduced. And it's always got people who are pioneering futuristic ideas, and I think that's where we need to be. But I do think there is a place for us in private hospitals. I've always said this. Private hospitals, patients are much more isolated, if you like, than they are in general hospitals. In addition, old folks' homes, doctors' surgeries, anywhere that we can help the hospital to promote health issues.
Well, certainly hospital radio is getting recognition from high places, and this is a little bit of a surprise for you, Keith, but possibly also for you, June, as well, because we've had a letter here from the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who says this: Dear Keith, congratulations on marking your 40th anniversary with Radio Brockley. He has heard that you've been an active member of Radio Brockley since 1977 and filled roles such as presenter, producer, engineer, fundraiser, treasurer, trustee and ambassador. You should be incredibly proud of your dedication to RNOH, which was rightly recognised by you winning the HBA's prestigious John Whitney Award in 2016 for your outstanding contribution to UK hospital broadcasting. I hope you enjoy the celebrations that your friends, colleagues and fellow trustees have planned for you. Congratulations once again. Yours sincerely, Sadiq Khan. So there you go.
Wow.
We'll get back to you as well. So
that's tremendous.
High praise indeed.
Thank you. Yeah.
Super.
So excellent. June, thank you very much for coming back to Radio Brockley. We look forward
Thank
to
you.
having some more drinks with you afterwards.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's lovely.
Lovely to see you, June.
Yeah,
and
it's lovely
keep
to
up the
see
good work, because it is invaluable and
Thank
it is
you.
appreciated by all of us
Thank you.
in hospital radio, that you take the time to visit as many stations as you do and present all those certificates. And generally, you're always a good person to talk to about hospital radio when we need guidance and advice, and that is invaluable.
Well, did you know I did, the year I had celebrated 40 years in hospital radio, I had a goal, and that was to visit 40 stations. I visited 52.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, visiting stations and being an ambassador for hospital radio, for me, is absolutely important. And I will do anything I can to make sure that hospital radio's well promoted and at the forefront of things.
You do a great job. Thank you very much, June,
Thank you,
for joining
my
us.
absolute pleasure.
We'll have another piece of music shortly, but just before that, another message for you, Keith.
Congratulations, Keith, for an amazing 40 years at Radio Brockley. All your hard work has definitely helped Radio Brockley to become the #1 recuperation station. Here's to many more years of you at Radio Brockley. Enjoy your celebrations. With love from Sue and all the Westerns.
What an absolutely brilliant choice. That's Mr. Blue Sky by the Electric Light Orchestra, as selected by Keith, celebrating 40 years of service to Radio Brockley. We're going to talk to a couple of legends, one of which we're going to hear from in just a moment. But just before we do, have a listen to this.
Ladies and gentlemen, a message of extreme importance is about to impact your audio sensibilities. This is the Emperor Roscoe, and I wanted to congratulate Keith Reeve. I understand 40 years of magnificent service to Radio Brockley at the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital in Stanmore has been achieved. The station owes a great deal to your hard work and dedication over so many years. And so what can I say to add to that except well done from your pal in the void, Emperor Roscoe.
That's something a bit different, isn't it? The Emperor Roscoe there doing his very special dedication to you. There you go.
One of the pirate legends.
Yeah, absolutely. And
he's still broadcasting, isn't he?
He is still broadcasting, yeah. He's doing CMR Radio, I think, a country music radio station.
Right, yeah.
Came across him.
What a character.
Anyway, so, yeah, that's a very well-known voice. And here's another very well-known voice as well.
Radio Brockley, your #1 recuperation station. What a lovely voice. I wonder who that could be.
Wonderful voice.
She's quite good, isn't she?
I'm all
Karina
right.
Bowers, welcome to the studio.
Hello.
Hi, wonderful to have you back. Now,
Thanks for
Karina,
having me.
you will have heard on many, many things other than being the voice of Radio Brockley. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, if you're a fan of Strictly Come Dancing, there was a voice that came on at the end of that, wasn't there?
It was for children in need.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm sure I Instagrammed or Facebooked the whole thing. I just advertised children in need and how they can donate, and that was moi.
Yeah.
Which was fun.
Amazing.
Thanks.
And when you're not a voice of that, you're a voice of Chuggington and Radio 1 and just about
Yeah.
everything else, aren't you?
And a mum.
And a mum.
How do I do it all?
Yeah, that is quite full-time,
I
isn't
know.
it?
Well, you're a woman, you can multitask.
Yeah, multitask.
That's
exactly.
what ladies do, isn't it? You know, us chaps can only do one thing at a time.
We can do everything.
Karina, lovely to see you.
You too, congratulations.
I always look at you and think you're a bit of a success story
Oh,
from
thank
Radio
you.
Brockley, because you joined us when you were ever so ickle.
17, I think I was.
And now I won't be rude and ask
21.
you. I don't want. Yeah, that's right, 21. But
We'll stick to that.
You've made it into professional radio and
yeah.
voiceover and
Yeah.
other things, which is brilliant for Radio
Yeah.
Brockley. And there's a few people in your case. You're one of them who's
Thank
actually
you.
achieved that
Yeah.
over the years. But it's lovely to have one sitting next to me.
Yay, of course. I wouldn't miss it for the world, Keith.
So where you do a radio show still daily?
No, don't do the radio show. I used to do some stuff for West Side, but I
Yeah.
stopped that. But now I do voiceovers, really. So continuity for Nickelodeon, which I do weekly, and some voiceover stuff for video games. Just lots of little bits and bobs, which is fun and I love it. But It's all about you today, Keith, to be fair, isn't it? It's
Well-
all about you.
Oh, yeah, your friends
Nice
McFly.
link.
Yeah,
Oh.
very good.
Oh, yes, McFly, yeah.
I have just asked you the question, though, Carina.
Yeah.
Lots of people sort of ask, how do you get into this stuff? How do you get into voiceovers and bits like that?
Well-
What's the secret? Apart from having an amazing voice, which obviously you have.
Yeah, I talk a lot. And I kind of think that kind of helps. Well, I went to drama school and did my whole degree at drama school. And then when I left drama school, I wrote off to voiceover agents and then luckily was accepted by one, signed up with one. And 10 years later, I'm still with them. And then they put me up for different... You don't audition for voiceovers. You just go in, they hear your voice on your voice reel, and then you get booked and then you go and do the job. You don't get given a script. You don't know what you're going to say.
You have to write your own scripts all the time?
No, you just get given it. So it's like you going, hi, Carina, here's your script. Okay, and go.
Right.
And you're like, so your sight reading has to be spot on.
And how many goes do you get at it? Do you do it for hours or do you do it in
No,
one
you're
take?
only booked for an hour, so the pressure is on.
Right.
But I'm quite a good sight reader, so I'm quite good at kind of getting a gist of what they want, the style, the energy.
That's a gift, actually.
Yeah, it is. Because sight reading's really hard as well.
I mean, I know when I have to read something out on the radio, I have to read it through 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
and then usually I won't get it right. So if you can do that and put the right emphasis on in the right places and make it sound real
In the right time.
that is a gift.
Yeah, thank you. It's tough, but when, especially with Nickelodeon, like I've been doing it for like over 2 years now, you kind of train yourself to say it, do it, you know what they want, and just say it, just speak.
So when you joined Radio Brockley 15 or however many years ago it was, quite a long time ago.
I'm only 21.
Sorry,
4 years ago,
Easy
Alan.
mistake to make.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of your early memories of Radio Brockley.
Gosh, I remember coming to Radio Brockley. I think I was meeting you, and Keith and everyone obviously at the show.
And you still came back?
I still came back. I was like, Alan Joyce. Oh, yeah. No, he's brilliant. I just remember coming in thinking, this is awesome. Being given the opportunity and being able to kind of have free reign of like your own show and put ideas together and to be able to go and like mix with the public and go into the wards and like meet the children and people that really need a little bit of boosting, I think. And I think that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make people feel happy. I wanted to come on and play their songs. Because whenever you listen to a radio and you text in or you email or you say, can you play my song? And you hear it, you're like, oh my God, I'm on the radio. So it's really nice to kind of give that back and just kind of bring a bit of a spark and like just enjoy it. And it was me, Dudley, Alan and Gemma, and we did a midweek pick-a-mix.
Oh yes, I remember that.
That was great. Yeah, I loved it. It was just really fun. And to meet like cool people and still be friends with them all these 4 years later. I just loved it. It was just a really good opportunity and a really nice way to give something back, because we're all volunteers and we're all giving up our time. And I think you can't really put money to time.
No.
And you can't. Why would you not want to give something back? Which I think is really nice.
You give and you get, I think.
Yeah, of course.
You get. I mean, this is my get back today.
Yeah.
People are giving back enormously for my 40 years here, but I get a great reward with what I've achieved here. And if I don't sadly get a lot of time to visit the patients, but when I do. And I actually try to make a point to go and listen to some of our listeners, speak to them who I see coming up regularly on request shows, just to introduce myself, because no doubt I've probably introduced a song for somebody I've never met.
No.
It's lovely to talk to them and to get a feel for what how they're feeling and what's going on. And the RNOH does some fabulous work. And as I said earlier, we can be that middle ground.
Of course.
We're not relatives fretting about what's going to happen when they go home. We're not medical staff doing things. We can just be a friendly face, the friend by your bedside, as the phrase goes.
Yeah.
And you have the perfect, bubbly, bright, energetic personality for that, to lift people.
Yeah, and it's the now, isn't it? It's like not thinking about the future, not thinking about what's going to happen or what has happened. It's let's talk about now.
Absolutely.
And let's like live in the moment for where we are and what we're doing. And I love it. Love a bit of Radio B.
As we have the voice of Radio Brockley in the studio,
Right.
perhaps we could create something here. Perhaps you could do, Keith, a live jingle. 40 years of Keith Reeve at Radio Brockley. Can you do that?
Yeah, what do you want me to say?
40 years of Keith Reeve at Radio Brockley. Let's
Okay.
see if we can make this work. And then you can use this for the whole year then, Keith. How's that?
Excellent.
Recap. So 40 years of Keith.
That's too much for anybody.
That's
40 seconds is enough.
40 years of Keith Reeve at Radio Brockley.
Got it.
Okay, here we go.
40 years of Keith Reeve at Radio Brockley.
Right, well, that's
One
lost,
take wonder.
that's lost the
Maybe.
listener. not through your
Damn
voice,
it.
but I'm thinking I'm not him again.
Yeah, that's very good. Excellent. So if you hear that voice, you'll know where it's coming
You can
from.
link it.
Another little surprise for you, Keith, here. We've had a letter in from MP Bob Blackman.
Oh,
who says,
I met Bob a couple of weeks ago.
You did
Another
indeed.
thing I was working on here, yeah.
So he says, I understand you're celebrating 40 years as a volunteer at Radio Brockley, and I wish to extend my heartfelt congratulations. With regret, I cannot attend the event itself. However, I hope your friends and colleagues are able to help you toast this remarkable level of public service in a suitable manner. Hospital radio is so important to patients, and I hope you are able to fully comprehend the extent to which you have enriched people's lives. You should know that you have helped countless patients and their loved ones through difficult times in your 40 years of service. The Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital itself falls within my constituency, and I am immensely proud of each and every person who contributes to this truly world-leading facility. And he also says, I look forward to welcoming Queen's Park Rangers back into the Premier League in the not-too-distant future. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, yours sincerely, Bob Blackman.
I think that's a pipe dream, the last bit. But Bob's a great supporter, actually, of the RNOH, and in many different ways. He turned up for an event I was involved in here 3 weeks ago, and we had groups of faith volunteers from a local mosque, local synagogue came in. Lovely people, worked very hard in our gardens up there on the Spinal Cord Injury Centre, and Bob paid us a visit on Remembrance Sunday and said hello, and it was nice to meet him again. I've met him a couple of times. Good guy, and he's very, very keen on the RNOH,
lovely.
as you just heard from his letter there. Thank you.
And great sight reading.
Well,
FYI.
thanks. Yeah.
Just to let you know. That was really good.
Do I get the gig?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, good.
You got it.
You can tell you two on radio, you see.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, spot on.
And QPR. I didn't know you were a QPR fan.
Well, yeah, armchair.
Okay.
I mean, armchair as much as I look at the football results and think, oh dear, we've lost again. I'd never go.
You might regret saying that.
Uh-oh.
Here's a letter from Lee Hoos, who's the Chief Executive Officer at Queen's Park Rangers Football Club.
Okay.
Don't worry, he's not here. You're safe. The club has been contracted by your friends, and understand that today is your 40th anniversary as a volunteer at Radio Brockley. We understand your contribution to the station has been vitally important to its success. On behalf of the owners, players, management and staff, we would like to congratulate you on this magnificent milestone and wish you all the best for the future. Thank you for your loyal support over the years, and we hope to welcome you to Loftus Road soon. There you go.
Yes,
lovely.
you need to get out the chair.
I better get a ticket then.
Yeah, you better start supporting them now. Carina, thank you so much for coming to Radio Brockley.
Good to see you.
Thank
Absolute
you.
pleasure to see you. Hopefully we'll catch up again very soon.
Yes.
Right, let's play another piece of music.
Hello Keith, it's Rob Hurd here, Chief Executive at the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital. Just to thank you so much for all your years of service to the Trust, and on behalf of the Trust Board, really, I mean, you came here as a patient in the 60s and 70s, Radio Brockley from 1977 for 40 long years, and on top of that you found the time to be a volunteer, to help us organise our volunteer community. You played a part in our redevelopment project and helping us every step of the way. And we're finally seeing the fruits of that labour collectively. So thank you so much for your years here at RNOH. Well done and keep going.
This is Tony Goldstone, the Chair of the Trust, and I'm very pleased to ask to say a word about Keith on this important anniversary. I've been around the Trust nearly 7 years, and one remembers quite clearly the individuals with whom one has a positive interaction on every occasion, and Keith is certainly one of them. He is, of course, responsible for a considerable part of the overall achievements of Radio Brockley, which are widely publicised, and its importance as a hospital radio service and as a kind of bellwether for all those kind of communications for patients in hospitals everywhere is completely obvious to everybody. I've always found him a positive, enthusiastic individual who has always been available when we have been involved with public events and needed to make statements or recordings in relation to how the hospital was doing. I've always found him extremely helpful, extremely positive, and extremely efficient. So it's not realised enough in these difficult days of the NHS just how much importance one should attach to this kind of contribution. So I congratulate him. I thank him for everything he's done over the years, for the patients in particular. But this service of itself has elevated the stature of the whole hospital. We look forward to working with him for many more years, and I look forward to doing an interview with him at the opening of the new inpatient ward block. So well done, Keith. Thank you for everything, and please be assured that we're all behind you. Thank you very much.
There you go. That's the hospital's chairman and chief executive there, heaping high praise once again on Keith celebrating 40 years of service to Radio Brockley. Some kind words there, Keith.
Absolutely, absolutely amazing. I mean, Tony and Rob, chief exec and chairman, have actually really elevated this hospital's status and got us to the point where we are at last being redeveloped. A lot of that credit must go to those two and the rest of the board, to be fair. But especially those two, I think, you've got to have a leader. You've got to have a captain steering the ship, and they've certainly done that between them. And it's always a pleasure working with both of them. They're always available. They're always happy to give a quick interview, or longer in some cases. We've interviewed both of them here at Radio Brockley at length, and it's great to be part of the hospital community.
Fantastic. Well, we're rapidly running out of time. We've got about 13 minutes before. By the way, at 7 o'clock, we've got a very special half-hour Keith Reeve special, which you won't be involved with live, so don't worry.
Oh, good.
You'll actually have the chance to have some food. But if you want to hear more about Keith's story of the last 40 years and him telling us some of the highlights from a little interview we did a little while ago, then you'll get to hear that before Bedside Bingo at 7 o'clock this evening. However, I am now joined in the studio, I'm very pleased to say, by the Thursday team's rivals, really, on a Tuesday night. It's Martin and Marge, the legendary double act. I'm very pleased to say, here in the studio. Martin and Marge, hello.
Hello, yes, we are here, yes. We can't do magic tricks, unfortunately.
Yeah. And between you've probably nearly matched Keith's 40 years, haven't you? A good few years between the two of you.
Yeah, I mean, Martin and myself have been broadcasting for many years, broadcasting together for many years now. When we go on the wards, the patients think that we're married.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
I can't shout that too loudly. Yeah, I'm going to say his wife is next door, but the patients do think that. Where's your husband today? Very embarrassing. But anyway, we are here to celebrate Keith's 40 years at Radio Brockley. And what can we say? Actually, do you know what I remember?
Things.
Yeah, it's going to be nice things. But I remember it was Keith that taught the two of us to engineer a radio show. Now, as painful as
playing around with the controls.
Yes, playing around with the controls, lining up the records and so on.
I remember it well.
Well, you survived, Keith.
I only spent 6 months in the asylum, but I was all right after that.
There was a gramophone and...
A gramophone?
The gramophone.
Was there a dog involved?
And the 8-track machine.
So what can we say? It's Keith that's made us what we are today. I don't know if you want to take credit for that. If I was you, I would disown us. But
well, you guys on the Tuesday have been stalwarts, same as us guys on the Thursday, to be honest, keeping the flag flying during the weekday. And you do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep it up, because we need those precious
I hope we're
requests.
Recording this is...
Well, yeah.
I mean,
that is nice to say, but this is your night, Keith. We should be heaping praise on you. Now, I've been around and seen, some of the numerous things that you've done for Radio Brockley over the last, well, certainly in the time that I've been here, which I think is about 15 years, give or take a few months or so. And I think it's true to say that the technical side of, getting us on air, the play-out system, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week now, you played a major part in that.
I've tried to contribute to everything, I think. As David said, the jack of all trades, master of none, basically, I think, and that really probably sums me up quite well.
But that has really kept us on air. And I know it's your evening, but I've got to say give Alan Joyce a mention as well, who has been equally proactive in keeping us going.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's a number of people. I can't take that praise alone. That would be very wrong and unfair. Over the years, not just people that are involved now, but people that have been involved previously that have done their bit for Radio Brockley to keep us here. 51 years of continuous broadcasting is no mean feat. And you guys have been a big part of that in the time that you've been here. I mean, you've been here about 15 years. Martin, you've been here about 26 now?
Yes.
I think, and then before that you were at Radio Edgware, weren't you? So and I can't remember how long you've been involved with Tuesday nights.
I can't remember either. Let's put it this way.
It's like a marriage.
Let's put it this way. We've got past the 7-year age.
Right. But no, I mean, it's great, and thank you for all you do. The radio station obviously wouldn't be anything without its listener, but it also wouldn't be anything without our volunteers, because without the volunteers we couldn't have a radio service that we try to do, and we're very proud of doing.
Well said. And whilst you're here, both of you, would you like to plug your Tuesday programme?
Over to you, Mr. Gold.
Okay, every Tuesday evening, why not listen to us? There are 3 wards that are covered: Margaret Hart, Jackson Boroughs, and
Ward 4.
Ward 4. And so if you like a request, always get a request from the extension number 5483. Or you can use the online account of radiobrockley.org, or 0208 954 6591.
So you didn't have all this 40 years ago. It's just the phone number, and that was it, wasn't
That's
it?
right. It was just the phone numbers. Yeah, nothing else. No social media. No email.
And exclusively on Tuesday, the Radio Brockley Christmas jingle is going
That's
to be
the
done.
Tuesday team's Christmas jingle.
Well, it goes out for everybody. It's
Okay.
not just for Tuesdays, it's for everybody.
Have you two been singing again?
No. He banned me.
I have done a version of it, but my
Of it?
my nephew has done with his girlfriend.
Right.
Has done the Radio Brockley Christmas jingle.
Oh, that's well worth listening to.
I look forward to hearing that. Will it be available for us to use on Thursday?
Yes.
Excellent.
Will it be available to download on iTunes and everything else?
That is subject to approval, of course, from the management here at Radio
Yes.
Brockley.
Management.
You have to ask him very
So
nicely.
stay tuned. Was it 9? Come to 8 o'clock.
Well, you know when you're on, don't you?
For myself, 8 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock for the request.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We're going to play one more piece of music, and then we'll come back quickly before we wind up this programme. This is the Eagles. Another fine choice there, the Eagles and Take It Easy. And just before we wind up this particular programme, another little message for you, Keith.
Hello, Keith. This is Clive Anderson congratulating you on your 40 years with Radio Brockley. 40 years. You must be almost as old as I am then. Well, I have some happy and some painful memories of the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital myself. They reset my arm when I was a kid when I broke it in a game. Well, it involved ropes and clumsiness on my part just outside my house in Stanmore, which is where I was born and brought up. And they had to sort me out again, rather more elaborately, when I fell off my bike right in front of a moving Morris Minor, and it continued moving for quite some time. I still have the scars to prove it. I dare say the Morris Minor had to have a few bumps taken out as well. I certainly hope so. Anyway, you started a bit late for me, but well done to you on your 40 years broadcasting. Thank you to the RNOH for looking after me, and best wishes all round for the future. So this is me, Clive Anderson, saying good night. Have a good night.
Brilliant stuff. Clive Anderson there.
Lovely.
Adding to the long list of congratulations, and it only leaves me to say, Keith, well done on 40 incredible years of loyal service to Radio Brockley. I think it's probably without question that you have contributed to this station more than any other member has in its 51-year history, and you keep it going from strength to strength, and well done you.
Well, thank you. I don't know where to start here, really. Firstly, I will say a huge thank you to you, Alan, because I can tell you have tremendous organisational skills, and you've obviously pulled this together big time, and thank you for that. And also a big thank you to everybody else here at Radio Brockley today who's done their bit to make this very, very, very special programme happen. It's lovely to see so many people from all the years that I've been involved and beyond, really, to be honest. But it's been a privilege to do this. I've enjoyed my 40 years. I hope there's more to come. It's great if the patient listens to this and they hear something on air that is useful or interesting, or they like the music, or we take their mind off their dilemma. That is what we're here for. And when you get that kind of feedback, then you know you've done your job.
Absolutely. There's a few other people I want to add to the list of thank yous for helping with this programme. Obviously, firstly, June Snowden, President of the HPA, the Mayor of Harrow, David Hamilton for calling in especially, Eric Call, David Rauch, Emma Joyce, Emma O'Connor and Amy Roberts, who did a huge amount to help this programme happen. So big thanks to every one of them. And do stay tuned for a very special show all about Keith in the next half an hour. Yes, another half an hour all about Keith. That's coming up in just a few moments' time. Followed, of course, by Bedside Bingo at 7:30. That's still happening as normal. And then, Keith, I gather you're back again, possibly.
Probably at 8 o'clock with the the Sunday request show. Yes, absolutely.
After he's had a few Prosecco's, so anything could happen. So this is it for now. Stay tuned to Radio Brockley across the rest of the evening. We'll play out on this one from Jess Glynn.